All right, everybody. Good morning. We have made it to the weekend. We have made it to the big weekend. We are just one day away from the conference championship games. Tomorrow afternoon, Seahawks hosting the Rams for the right to go to the Super Bowl. It all comes down to this. Felt like it was going to go this way for a while now. Felt like the whole NFL season was just being carved around this eventual showdown for all the marbles between the Rams and the Seahawks. And it wasn't a clear path to get here, but we have ultimately landed here. So these are the two teams that a lot of people spent a lot of the season saying were the two best teams in football. And whoever came out between those two teams would be the team that takes it all. So we're here now, just one day away. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting stuff to get into with this matchup. So let's pull it apart. I know we know this Rams team pretty well, but let's talk about what we can with this matchup. All right, guys, before we go any further into this video, let's take a minute so I can tell you about my friends over at Sleeper. If you're not using Sleeper this year for daily fantasy, then you are missing out. Download the app and get ready to have more fun with sports this year. Make all kinds of picks on over-unders. Get on over there. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever your sports fancy is. I've got some picks going for this week, the conference championship games. I got the over on Cooper Kupp, 30.5 receiving yards. I got Ken Walker scoring an anytime touchdown. I got Mevis over on the Rams kicking at least 2 field goals. And I got Drake May with the under on 227 passing yards. So get on over to Sleeper. Use promo code SBN, that is SBN, to get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100 and go have more fun with sports this year. All right, so let's break it down the best that we can. Let's cover every possible angle of this game, and let's try to understand this Rams team as much as we can so that we as a fan base are ready to digest the 3 to 3.5 hours of football that we're going to be getting tomorrow late afternoon. Obviously, the Rams had a little bit of a bumpy road here these last couple of months to get to this point, but they are still here. And I know that there are Seahawks fans out there that have said, and I understand where the sentiment is coming from, this is not the same Rams team from earlier this year. And I would agree, they're not. But that doesn't change the fact that they are going to be dangerous over a 60-minute period tomorrow. Just because they don't look as good as Seattle does over the last several games they played doesn't mean they can't be a problem for one matchup on one Sunday with everything on the line. So let's talk about it. Starting with the Seattle offense versus the Rams defense. Theoretically, this should be an area that heavily favors the Seahawks. The Seahawks offense has not always performed at the highest levels this season, but they are a very high scoring team. They are a team that has really found a way to balance things out with a dominant rushing attack over their last 4 games. And this Rams defense, which earlier in the season was playing at an elite level, they had one of the best defenses in the league for a lot of the year. Last 2 months of the season, not so much, man. You had a lot of bad games in there, giving up a bunch of points to Carolina twice. That's a terrible Carolina offense. You've got giving up all those points to Atlanta in that one game. Atlanta's not a very good team. You had, of course, giving up all those points to Seattle and blowing that big lead they had in the game in Seattle, a month and a half ago. Giving up 34 points to the Detroit Lions. It's not a very good defense right now. Now, some people have said they'll be better when Quentin Lake gets back, and he's been back for a couple weeks now, and we did see something better from them in that Bears game. That was the best the defense has looked in a while, but there were some extenuating circumstances in that game, like, for instance, the weather. So I don't know how much to take away from that. I don't know how to feel about that. So just looking at this defense, the thing that really jumps out, you should be able to run the ball on them. You should be able to grind the game out on the ground. And I know we don't have Zach Charbonnet, but the reasons why this Seattle team is having success on the ground is not just because of Zach Charbonnet or not just because who the running backs are. Walker is clearly the better player right now between the two anyway. And at the end of the day, Charbonnet is I know he's more important than a typical backup running back, but he is a backup running back. That should not be the thing that is make or break for your rushing attack. Ultimately, the rushing attack comes down to the guys up front, and we're seeing much better play from guys like Gray Zabel, from guys like Jalen Sundell, from guys like even Anthony Bradford. These guys are playing at such a high level that you can run the ball with pretty much anybody behind the quarterback right now. Maybe not anybody, but Ken Walker is locked in a way right now that I have never seen him locked in before. The way he attacked the line of scrimmage in that Niners game last week was unlike anything I've ever seen from him. And we got George Halani up now, and Halani, I think he can play. So run the ball. This is where the Rams can really be attacked. They're a little light up front. They've got Braden Fisk as one of their starting defensive tackles. That's a guy you can run at. Byron Young, not healthy, probably going to play, but not 100%. You can run at him. They got some pretty decent linebackers in LA. Chris Landman has been good for them. But overall, this is a Rams team that I believe you can run the ball on, especially if they continue to do what they've done most of the year, which is not stack the box, play a light box a majority of the time, and live with allowing stuff on the ground. So it all starts there, all starts up front. You run the ball with K9, who has had two pretty good games against this Rams team already this year. You're getting off to a good start. And the interesting thing to me will be, does this Rams team do what the Niners did not do, which is eventually commit to stopping the run aggressively to where they put themselves in danger on the back end because they know that if they allow Seattle to just grind the game out on the ground, it's not going to end well for them. Will they eventually start putting extra men in the box? Will they eventually start playing the run more aggressively? Will they even adjust who they're playing on the defensive line because they want to make sure they have guys in there who are better at stopping the run than Braden Fisk? That is going to be kind of the interesting chess match here. That is something that I think that eventually you're going to see teams start doing. Right now, we live in an era where teams really want to sit in that cover two shell, and the Rams are an extreme example of that. They don't want to get beat over the top. They don't want to give up big pass plays. They're willing to live with getting run on a little bit if it means they're not giving up big pass plays. Are they eventually going to just go for broke if we're grinding the ball effectively on them? If we are running the ball really well in that third, fourth quarter, and they feel like they need to switch things up to get back in the game, or maybe it's close and they feel like they need to make a big play to flip the game, then are they going to start cheating up against the run? And is Seattle ready to beat that? That is one of the big questions here. And that gets us to the other element of this offense. Sam Darnold, who has had tremendous problems playing the Rams this year. He's got 6 interceptions in 2 games. They are the team that has given him the most trouble, and it makes sense why. It's not just purely random. Sam Darnold, I think this is the kind of defense that gives him trouble. They run a lot of stunts. They run a lot of twists up front. They do a lot of things with their front four to where they make the quarterback think about things without blitzing. They only send 4 guys, and they're really mostly only sending their 4 guys up front. They don't do a lot of exotic stuff there, but with all the stunting and twisting they do, all the games they play up front, it gets really tough because as a quarterback, you're not sure where the guys are coming from, even though you know who they are. That gives Darnold problems. So I take a look at something like that and I say, yeah, it would not shock me if this Rams defense gives Darnold some problems again. So what I'm going to say is, first of all, keep running it. Like I said earlier, just keep running the ball. If the Rams are going to run a lot of stunts and twists, then that means they're vulnerable to the run game. Stunting and twisting opens up big run lanes. So stick to it. You should be okay. As long as you don't fall behind really early, you should be able to stick to it, and good things should happen. But you are going to have to make throws at some point to win this game. And of course, if the Rams start stacking the box, if the Rams start doing exotic, unusual things to stop the run, then you beat them over the top. You play Sam Darnold football. But what I'm really thinking about with this game And the thing that I found myself coming back to over and over again, what would McCorkle do? That is the mantra for Sam Darnold this week. And the reason why I say that, Mac Jones is not some tremendously talented quarterback. He's a backup quarterback, probably gets a starting job next year if he's on another team. But Mac Jones is not some superstar quarterback. But 2 games this year against the Rams, he has played great in both games. He has given the Niners a chance to win both games. He won one of them. And how did he do it? By taking what the defense gave him over and over and over again. And he never stopped taking what the defense gave him over and over and over again. He was cool with 5-yard gains. He was cool with 4-yard gains. He was cool with checkdowns. He was totally fine with easy, simple throws against a defense that was mostly dropping their players back. That is the way you need to play against this Rams team, the way they typically play. They're not going to go crazy here. They're not going to put their corners on big islands. They're not going to blitz like nuts. They're going to try to keep things in front of them. So you got to play the way Mac Jones plays. And what I'm hoping is that at the end of this game tomorrow night, when I'm here making my stream, making my video, talking about this game, if the Seahawks lose, I hope I'm not sitting here saying and thinking to myself, we would have won that game with Mac Jones at quarterback. So I need Darnold to not push it into the teeth of the defense. I need Darnold to not take big risks and force it into tight coverage. There's no need for that. And I think Darnold the last couple weeks has played that way. And I think that he seems to have come to an understanding of how he needs to play right now. But he's got to do it again this week and get the ball out fast. That Rams pass rush is intimidating. It is fearsome, but it is doable. If Mac Jones can do it, so can you. We've got a pretty healthy offensive line. Charles Cross is going to be good to go. We might even have Josh Jones as a backup tackle, which would be a nice thing in our back pocket here. And as long as you keep taking what the defense gives you, you're going to put up points. You're going to have good drives, and you're eventually going to win. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And to me, the main thing that can upset that is forcing the ball deep down the field where it doesn't need to be. If you have the opportunity to take a shot to Rashid Shaheed in single coverage, by all means. If you have the opportunity to get the ball deep downfield to JSN, like the plays that he was catching earlier this year, go for it. But for the most part, focus on taking what the defense gives you until they stop giving you easy plays. And then at that point, you can adjust. Okay. So that's how I feel about this offense versus the Rams defense. I don't think it's as bad as it's been recently, but I do think it's exploitable, especially on the ground. Now, the really fun stuff with this game is on the other side of the ball. You've got the Rams offense, number 1 in the league in points, against the Seahawks defense, number 1 in the league in points allowed. Now, the Rams offense is coming off a pretty bad game against the Bears, but again, weather, I don't know how seriously to take that. They're an intimidating offense. Like, I'm not going to let that Bears game make me think that they're cooked. I will say they are a little bit beat up right now, I think. I know that these players aren't listed on the injury report, and I know they're going to play, but Stafford is clearly not 100%. I don't think Puka is either. And Devontae, I don't think has been 100% in like 3 months. So this Rams offense, it's all about the chess match, right? It's all about the chess match. And the thing with this game compared to, say, the Niners game, the Rams, they like to run it inside. They like to have a power rushing attack with Kyron Williams and really big offensive linemen in the middle there. They got Dotson. They got Steve Avila. They've got some really big guys down in the trenches. That is going to be the seat of their power for this game in all likelihood. That is where they live. Because this Seahawks defense, while it is the best in the league at stopping the run, they are a little bit light. They don't have a traditional nose tackle, and they live in nickel. So they're going to try to run the ball, and they may have some success there. Will it make this Seahawks team get out of nickel? I don't know. Doesn't seem like something they want to do, but that is the first bit of it. That's the first part of the chess match. Will the Rams commit to their inside zone rushing attack? Will they commit to their 3 tight end sets? And will the Seahawks counter it with base, or will they live in nickel? Because they are uniquely equipped to live in nickel against almost anything because of Eman, because of Witherspoon. They can do things that no other team can that allow them to stay in nickel, but will they do it? That first game we played against the Rams earlier this year, they did have a lot of success running the ball on us. Second game, not so much. But if they go to 3 tight end and they're plowing us over because they have so much more girth in the middle than we do, what do we do? So that's the first part of this. Run defense versus their rushing attack, which is seemingly built to counter what the Seahawks do. But I don't think McDonald is getting out of the nickel defense. I think he wants to live in nickel, and I think he's going to go down swinging with that unless it's a complete disaster early in the game. So with that being said, what do we do against Stafford in that passing attack? You got to go to man defense, I think. I think you got to run a lot of man defense. Not every play, obviously, but that seems to be where you can make things happen against this Rams passing attack. Man coverage gives Puka Nacua more problems than zone. Same for Devontae Adams. And I think you can man up on their tight ends. I think Nick Eman can man up on these tight ends. I think Drake Thomas can hang with these tight ends. Main concern here would just be somebody like Ernest Jones, who isn't the fastest guy in the world, not being able to man up with a tight end or a back. But I do feel like that is the way you play this game defensively. You play man a lot. You see if Puka can route you up, because Puka's not a great route runner. He makes his bones in other areas, and he does tend to slice and dice your zone defense. The real chess match here for me, though, is the pressure, the blitzing. Are we going to blitz? We do not blitz a lot. Last time we played the Rams, we blitzed Stafford like crazy. It did not work at all. It was a complete mess. We got destroyed. We tried to blitz it like almost a 40% rate for a good chunk of that second game. Didn't work at all. We pulled back in the fourth quarter and in overtime, went way better. Stafford is the best quarterback in the league against the blitz this year. But the Seahawks have struggled to get pressure traditionally in the last, we're coming up on like almost 2 months now. So with that in mind, do you switch it up this week? Do you start blitzing more, knowing that you need to get pressure and knowing that you gotta get something beyond what you've got up front? That's really the issue here. We can get okay pressure with our front, but against the 49ers, Brock Purdy had a lot of time on most of his dropbacks. Now, the good news is Stafford is not going to scramble around. He's not going to bide time the way that Brock Purdy does. He's going to get the ball out quicker. He's going to try to mitigate the issue of getting pressured at all by getting the ball out of his hands fast. But I think the big issue here is if you can't get pressure with your front four, you got to come up with something else, because like every other quarterback in the league, Stafford becomes much worse when you're actually starting to get pressure on him. And here's where it gets hard. Here's the difficult part. Stafford has been blitzed at an incredibly high rate so far this postseason, and he has been terrible against the blitz. He's gotten extremely lucky that he doesn't have multiple turnovers in both playoff games. And even with the turnover luck, which has been insane for him for the last couple weeks, he's still not playing well at all against the blitz. Do you trust that, or do you trust the regular season? That's going to be the difficult part here. Or do you maybe not even worry that much about the pressure because Stafford gets the ball out of his hands so quickly anyway, you'd rather just drop your 7 guys into coverage and try to play straight up, which is something that the Seahawks were willing to do against the Niners, more or less, I felt like, because they knew they could win on the back end because the Niners don't have good receivers right now. But Rams, a little bit better in that area, and they also have a quarterback that can make more throws. So that is the chess match here. Do we blitz? And if we do, who are we blitzing? When are we blitzing? I'm not really thinking we should completely unleash. Maybe we should blitz a little bit more than we do, like maybe 25% of the time. We got to pick our spots. We got to choose correctly. But one way or the other, we have to get pressure on Stafford. That is something that we did not do in either of the first two games very well. We got very little impactful pressure on Stafford. And if we don't do it this time, even if we're dropping 7, even if our back end is playing really well, it's going to be a lot harder to win this game. Right now, Stafford is wounded. He's got the finger injury. I think he's got a rib thing going on ever since really Nwosu hit him back in week 16. I don't think he's right now. So I think that you want to be trying to get to him. You want to be trying to exacerbate the problems that he's having. And you want to take advantage of the fact that he is an older player. So got to find a way to get pressure. If you can do it with your front, great. But lately it hasn't been happening. I don't really know what else to say. We've got the guys to match up with their receivers. We've got the guys to match up with their tight ends. They just have to go out there and do it. We are the team that is significantly better rested. Both teams are pretty darn healthy. The Rams are down Havenstein, who might not even be starting for them right now if he was healthy. And maybe they're down Byron Young, but probably not. The thing with the Rams to keep in mind is they've got all these players that are beat up right now and not playing at 100%. You can't tell me Stafford is 100% right now. Look at how he played against the Panthers and the Bears. That is not the Matt Stafford that we saw for most of the season. Puka and Adams, same thing. Those guys are not playing at 100% at all right now. Not even close, I don't think. So you've got that in your back pocket. The Rams are coming off a overtime game against the Bears. You're coming off a game where it was over in the third quarter. You've got a big advantage on special teams. You've got the best special teams unit in football. The Rams have a bad special teams unit. The Rams are probably not even going to try to kick it to Shaheed the whole game, so you're going to be starting possessions with really good field position pretty much the whole game. You'll be in a situation where you only need like 30 yards to kick a field goal off kickoffs. You're going to be in situations where you're going to get the ball really well spotted off of punts. So you've got a big advantage there. Would not shock me if this game swung on special teams with how bad the Rams have been. They almost lost both of their first two playoff games off of special teams miscues. So they have big problems there right now, and they can't fix it. It's too late. If they could have fixed it, they would have fixed it by now. So put it all together. I'm going with Seahawks 27, Rams 20. I don't think it'll be an easy game. There will probably be heart attacks. There will probably be drama. But I feel pretty good, man. I feel pretty good about this matchup right now. I think we can take advantage of that defense that has become really, really lackluster in recent weeks. I think that if you take the last 2 months of the regular season or close, they were like bottom 5 in EPA. And I think that McDonald learned a lesson from the last time we played this Rams team. And one thing that he said coming out of that Rams game is he came up with a bad game plan. And he felt like he understood what went wrong in that game that made us get completely destroyed, over 500 yards and 37 points. So if he did, if he does truly understand what went wrong in that game, then we should be seeing big time improvements in this one, and we should be seeing the recipe needed to win. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Maybe another video later. We'll see. Go Hawks. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and let's go get this win and go to the Super Bowl.